Let's jump right in. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're completely demystifying the DIY wire antenna and building a highly efficient J-pole literally from scratch. Whether you're prepping for emergency comms, setting up a base station, or honestly just looking to conquer the airwaves without blowing a fortune on commercial gear, building your own antenna is absolutely one of the most rewarding projects you can tackle. We're going to break down the exact math, the physical construction, and the precise tuning methods using modern tools. Let's get into it.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll cover antenna anatomy and math, constructing the J-pole, safe and optimal mounting, nano VNA setup and safety, and finally, tuning for perfect resonance.
All right, Section 1, Antenna Anatomy and Math. Let's lay the groundwork.
So the concept of velocity factor is absolutely critical here. We all know radio waves travel at the speed of light in a perfect vacuum. But when you force those electromagnetic waves to travel through a physical medium, like a copper wire or ladder line, they actually slow down. This slowing effect is represented by a decimal ratio. For example, 450 ohm ladder line has a velocity factor of 0.91. That just means the signal travels at 91% of the speed of light. Because the signal is slower, the physical wavelength physically shrinks. You literally have to calculate this factor, or your antenna will be completely out of tune before you even make your first cut.
And because of that velocity factor, we've got to carefully scale our element dimensions mathematically. We're basing everything on your specific target frequency and that critical velocity factor multiplier we just talked about. For our J-pole, we have two main elements to calculate, a 3/4 wave radiator and a 1/4 wave matching stub. Basically, you take the base mathematical constant for the wavelength, multiply it by your wire's velocity factor, and then divide by your target frequency in megahertz. This calculation scales the dimensions perfectly, whether you're building for the 2-meter band or scaling way up for something else entirely.
The really crucial point here is understanding exactly how these calculated pieces work together. You see, the J-pole operates as an end-fed half-wave antenna. Now you might be wondering, wait, didn't we just calculate a 3/4 wave radiator? Yep, we did. And this is the absolute genius of the design. That 1/4 wave matching stub actually acts to cancel out the bottom quarter wavelength of the extra wire on the radiator. They essentially swallow each other's fields right in that section, leaving exactly one perfect half wavelength of wire above it to freely radiate your signal. It's this brilliant self-contained matching system, and it doesn't even require ground radials.
Moving right along to Section 2, Constructing the J-pole.
For the absolute best results, you'll want to use 450 ohm ladder line. It's fantastic because it creates a durable, really weather-resistant J-pole antenna that can survive heavy rain without severely detuning on you. You're going to strip sections of this line to separate the radiator and the stub, based on the math we just did, and to hold it all together, housing the ladder line inside a rigid PVC pipe drastically improves your structural stability, especially if you live in an area with high winds. Oh, and finally, you absolutely must use high-quality coax for your feed line. Seriously, don't skimp on the coax or you won't be able to minimize signal loss during transmission.
Okay, before we finish construction, we need to add a really crucial component, the RF choke. When you feed an end-fed antenna, radio frequency current just loves to travel back down the outside shield of your coaxial cable. If that happens, your cable basically becomes part of the antenna, radiating RF right back into your Radio Shack and completely ruining your transmission pattern. Nobody wants that. So, to prevent these cable radiation issues, you simply take a small piece of PVC pipe and tightly wind 3 to 5 turns of your coax into an RF choke, right there at the feed point. Tape it up securely. This physically chokes off the stray RF and keeps your signal exactly where it belongs.
Let's talk placement. Section 3, Safe and Optimal Mounting.
Look, keeping your wire antenna mounted away from walls and other physical objects in clear, free space is absolutely mandatory. If you place a J-pole too close to a building, a metal mast, or even dense trees, it will immediately couple with those objects. This parasitic coupling severely degrades your standing wave ratio, or SWR, and totally ruins your overall signal quality. Always give your antenna room to breathe for a much clearer signal.
And hey, physical height matters just as much as clearance. Specifically, mounting the base of your J-pole at least 0.25 wavelengths above the ground is the absolute sweet spot. If you mount it too low, the ground just absorbs your power and distorts the signal straight up into the sky. Getting it at least a quarter wavelength up optimizes your low-angle radiation pattern, pushing your signal out horizontally toward the horizon. That is exactly what you want for maximum distance and clarity.
Next up, Section 4, Nano VNA Setup and Safety.
Okay, please pay close attention to this one. You must physically discharge static from your outdoor antenna before you ever connect your tuning device, like a nano VNA.
Outdoor wire antennas naturally build up massive static electricity charges just from the wind blowing across them. If you plug that directly into your analyzer, that static discharges straight into the sensitive internal RF switches of your device, and it will permanently damage it. Literally zap it. Always take a screwdriver and momentarily short the center pin of your coax to the outer threaded shield to bleed off that static first. It's a quick step that saves your gear.
All right, once it's completely safe to connect, we must calibrate. A nano-VNA is an incredibly powerful tool to visualize resonance, but it's totally blind without calibration. First, set your specific frequency span for the band you're building for. Then just follow the standard sequence. Reset the device, attach the open standard, then the short standard, then the 50 ohm load standard, and finally save the profile. And here is the golden rule. You must recalibrate your meter after every single physical change to the antenna elements, or any changes to the frequency span in your menu. Otherwise, your readings will be completely fabricated.
Now for the really fun part. Section 5. Tuning for perfect resonance.
When you connect your antenna to the nano-VNA, you're going to sweep the frequencies across the screen. You want to visually look for the absolute lowest dip on your graph. It looks like a deep V shape, and that represents your point of lowest SWR. That means practically all your power is radiating out and very little is reflecting back to the radio. Pinpointing that exact lowest dip on the graph shows you exactly where your antenna is currently hitting its absolute peak performance.
Now let's be real. Chances are your dip won't be perfectly centered on your desired frequency on the very first try, and that's totally normal. If your dip is showing up at a lower frequency than you want, it means your physical antenna element is simply too long. You've got to adjust your element lengths by carefully cutting the wire, taking small amounts off the top of the radiator and the bottom of the stub to fine-tune your frequency response. Conversely, if your dip is at a higher frequency than your target, your antenna is too short and you'll need to lengthen it.
Finally, when you get extremely close to your target frequency, you want to stop cutting. Put the wire snips down. Instead, use a sliding shorting bar at the base of your matching stub to make those fine micro adjustments for a better signal. By sliding a small piece of bare wire slightly up or down the feed point, you actually alter the impedance match. This allows you to dial in that final perfect one-to-one signal without endlessly snipping away at your wire. Once you find that absolute sweet spot, crimp it, solder it, and you are done. So, we have covered the strict math, the careful construction, the vital safety steps, and the precise visual tuning required to build an incredibly effective DI wire antenna. I really hope this explainer has empowered you to stop buying expensive pre-made gear and start building your own high-performance setups. So my final question for you is, now that you have the blueprint, what frequency band will you conquer first with your brand new antenna? Get out there, start calculating, and happy building.